Shalom, call Holaim Light, Hawa Bashem, Yahweh Shah Bashem Akakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And a sincere shalom to 144,001 third. Now, you've been hearing about this uptick of a screw worm. So, a screw worm is it's a special type of worm that screws into flesh. Now, typically it goes for mammals, of bovine, cows and whatnot. Maybe even, deer, roes, right? So, here's an article talking about the rise of the screw worms. Again, they look like screws, right? Which just goes to show you that Yahweh created the screw. Okay, all these technologies, and because yes, a screw is a form of technology. Okay, nails. What was it, Noah? When he built the ark, he used nails, a hammer and chisel. Okay, the iPhone. All these things are created by Yahweh. Salakia. So let's dive in. Ravenous, flesh-eating flies have busted through containment barriers and have now reemerged in the U.S. On Monday and Tuesday, the U.S., of course, they made it sound very dramatic. But guess what? Yahweh's going to bring in something where this is going to sound just as bad as it is. Yahweh can bring in a whole army of super insects that can break through your house, and then they bite you. Because let's just be truthful. If a lot of bugs genuinely wanted to harm you, they could harm you. All right, they're much faster and agile than you. Okay, like what's the fly called? It's a fly that that attacks people already. Like, it's already a common thing. It's just not. It's not super. It's not super. Common. Like, it's more in the rural areas. I think it's called a bot fly or a soldier fly, or it's some type of fly, and it's very aggressive. It doesn't care. It'll fly straight in your face and bite you in the face. Okay, and you can't really stop it. Especially if you're not paying attention, because it flies so fast. Now, of course, it's still a thinking creature. If it sees you looking at it and you swat your hand or make a defensive posture, it'll pull back, right? On Monday and Tuesday, the U.S. Department of Agriculture reported 3 new cases, bringing the tally to 5. One of the cases is in a dog, though it is unclear where it became infected. The dog lives in New Mexico. Had its infection reported in Texas, it may have recently traveled to Mexico, where the flies are also spreading. But the other 4 U.S. cases were all in Texas and all in calves. 2 in Zavala County and 2 in La Salle, whatever, county. And guess what? They can still attack humans. Look at the devastation that it causes. The USDA has estimated that if the flies stage a comeback, rivaling isolated outbreaks in the past, they could cost Texas producers $732 million per year, in the Texas economy $1.8 billion. So these flies are savages. these are very aggressive, very destructive creatures of the Lord. So let's get this right here. 2nd Esdras 15:11. But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. And guess what? The Egypt was plagued with locusts and frogs. So guess what? There's going to be more insects and amphibians and mammals, right? That's how Humans have classified Yahweh's creatures: mammals, reptiles, amphibians, birds, so on and so forth. These creatures. Imagine if Yahweh was like, all right, all the predatory insects eat humans, attack my humans, attack these humans, I should say, but don't touch the elect. All right, don't touch the elect. That's what's going to be happening. Not literally all predatory animals, if you will, but you're going to see a lot of these predatory creatures getting active. Let's get this right here. This is Amos, the 5th chapter, in verse 18. Woe unto you that desire the day of Yahweh. To what end is it for you? The day of Yahweh is darkness and not light, as if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand on the wall and a serpent bit him. So yeah, things are gonna get active. You think the screw worms are bad? They're just attacking, for the most part, the beef supply, the milk supply. But just wait till how it does something that affects human beings. Here it goes right here. Human risk. The flies are attracted to the smell of wombs. Mucous membranes and orifices, which is, I believe, holes, of warm-blooded animals, and females deposit hundreds of eggs when they find an opening. The eggs hatch within a day, and the resulting eponymous screw-shaped larvae quickly begin ruthlessly boring into the and feasting on the victim's living flesh. This savagery can last up to a week before the mature larvae fall to the ground. There they pupate in the soil and emerge 7 to 54 days later as adult flies. So guess what? Yahweh could have, you could be at war, right? You're homeless, civil war, you're wounded, and then you're laying down sleep, and then a fly comes in, lays his eggs in your wound. You don't notice because you're asleep, and then a day or two later, you're throbbing in pain because these worms are digging are digging in your flesh. Yahweh's not gonna play, man. His indignation is gonna be ridiculously bad. Let's get a scripture on that. This is Isaiah 30 and 27. Behold, the name of Yahweh cometh from far, burning with his anger, and the burden thereof is heavy. His lips are full of anger, indignation, and his tongue as a devouring fire. And guess what? Yahweh's going to make sure to put in work to take these people out. Isaiah 34 and 2. For the indignation, which is righteous anger, of Yahweh is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He had utterly destroyed them, and he hath delivered them to the slaughter. Okay? So guess what? Your doctors, we don't care. Yahweh doesn't care. Okay, that you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a general. You know, you could be feeding the poor. You could be a heathen feeding Jakes. You could be helping out Jake. You a heathen. Yahweh doesn't care. He's still gonna put you to death. Okay? Human cases emerge. Screw worms will attack any wound in humans. They can find a wound as tiny as a tick bite as a way in. For those caught unaware, the flies will also happily lay eggs in convenient openings such as the nose, mouth, ears, eyes, and even the bum. So your brown eye, right? Where you do a number two. And probably a number one too, if available. So these flies are savages. You know, you don't even have to have a wound. They'll lay eggs. So if you're asleep, okay, you could go to sleep and they can crawl up in your nose and lay eggs, or crawl up in your ear, or whatever. So you can't escape because you gotta have either your mouth open or your nose open to breathe, right? Boom, you caught up. And guess what? Yahweh's gonna do things like this where you just can't escape. You can't escape, man. You can't escape. How you gonna escape? I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna get a scripture on how someone can escape from this. Okay. This is Isaiah 26:20. Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself as it were for a little moment until the indignation be overpassed. Now, yeah, that I believe that specific chapter is talking about the nuclear destruction, but guess what? That still applies for just anything. You know, Jacob's trouble, so on and so forth. Yahweh has a hedge of protection over his elect, so they can, you know, survive and or endure the wrath, the indignation of Yahweh. But you heathens, you non-elect Israelites, you're cooked. All right. Screw worm. Let's see if we can find a photo of this. So boom, that's what they look like, and they screw up in your flesh, and you can't stop it because I mean you can, but you're gonna have to cut out pieces of your flesh just to get to them. You know, so these things are savage. And Yahweh has things like this set up, and the main people that are going to be affected is none other than you Edomites. All right, you're the wicked, so you know you cooked. You Edomites are overly cooked, overly cooked. Okay, and with that, shalom.